what's up? We are back on the CEO Pulse podcast, where you get the real, the raw, and the mind of entrepreneurship. We have Scott Meyers with us. He's the CEO of Kingdom Storage. He's also an educator, and he does all things when it comes to self-storage. He's been doing it since 1993, in real estate since 1993, and then found a pivot, ended up in self-storage. But right now, he currently owns and operates over 2.2 million square feet and over 13,000 units nationwide, right? So his whole thing is self-storage, syndication. It's a completely different strategy than what we are often, exposed to. So I'm very excited to get into the topic of this. And I also want to find out how the transition happened between going from multifamily and traditional real estate to finding something like self-storage and making it work. So Scott, thank you so much for being on the show, man. It's good to have you.
Rafael, good to see you again. How are you?
I am doing good, thank you. I guess one of the first questions, right, is it's going to be, how did you tap into this strategy? But before we jump into that, can you tell us a little bit of about you? Maybe give us some background on you, how you got started.
Sure. Yeah. As you mentioned, 1993 is when I started in real estate, and that all happened by buying the Carlton Sheets home study system. I'm dating myself, but some folks may remember that name, and got into my first single family house by actually assuming a VA mortgage. Those were still around then. And with a small down payment, I took a home equity loan out on my existing home, bought that rental, rehabbed it, refinanced it, rented it out. So the Burr method before it was called the Burr method. And then we took the proceeds from that one, and we purchased two more that had VA mortgages on it. And then we were off to the races. And so we just continued to rehab, refinance, rent them out. And the goal at the time was to truly follow the Carlton Sheets method, where we would have 15 properties and pay them off in 15 years and sail off into the sunset. Yeah. Well, it didn't really have the cash flow and the freedom in having 15 houses, especially since I had mortgages on them at the time. So I thought, well, I really want to short circuit or, shortcut and get to that place where, I had an income stream to replace my W-2 income quicker than that. And so we got up to about 75 houses, and we were getting closer, but that's when we decided to pivot and then go into multifamily, just economies of scale. That will solve all problems. It allows us to catapult and go faster. With more units and in these multifamily facilities and projects, that we could have a property management company in place. And even though the decisions and the buck stops here, at least I can have somebody managing the day-to-day, and then and also manage my portfolio of houses. So we quickly got into multifamily, had about 400 units. And what we really found at that point, Rafael, was just kind of the same thing. We really had grown to a place where we had just more tenants and toilets and trash. And it still took a lot of time to manage these. And, really it takes a while to get to that place where you really cross the hump and get some mortgages paid down, or have a true, economies of scale and enough facilities and projects in which you can truly walk away. Right. And we didn't get to that place in the multifamily and in the houses. So I said, well, for all the reasons we love real estate, that everybody listening to this podcast loves real estate, it appreciates, we can depreciate it. You could borrow money to buy it. You can improve it. You can force the value and the appreciation increase in it. And then if you have a tenant in your real estate, it's income producing real estate, somebody's paying it off, paying down your basis. There's no other investment that on the planet that operates like real estate. Yeah. If it weren't for the tenants and the toilets and trash. And so how do I get out of that? Well, there's parking lots and there was self-storage. And so I kind of shied away, never really looked into self-storage too much. It just seemed, garages, these, metal boxes on concrete slabs. I was a sophisticated, multifamily investor at this point, until I began to look into the business model and realize it was very recession resistant. It's inflation resistant. When somebody doesn't pay you, you lock them out, and then you sell your stuff off after 90 days if they don't pay you, and you recoup your money. And for those reasons alone, I was like, well, okay, I need to look into this. And then when somebody moves out, or if you happen to, auction off their unit, well, you don't have to bring in a team of contractors to clean the carpets, replace the carpets, paint, fix everything. You take in a 200 mile per hour blower, you blow the unit out, and you move in the next person waiting in line. And so the more I looked, the more I liked the model. I bought my first one with a partner. We shared the debt, we shared the down payment. And from a management standpoint, we were managing 400 units with very little lifting at all. Had a manager in place that rented it up, and then we put a kiosk in place to replace the manager's hours. and it runs like a red box rental. And so after that, I saw the light, as they say, and we sold all our houses, sold all our apartments, and then went full bore into self-storage. I went off from that first partnership and did my own. And that's when we grew to the place where we are right now, which is we're actually approaching 2.5 million square feet and 15,000 doors. And we've done that by way of syndication. You don't buy that much real estate unless you're using private equity, and we have great lending relationships and even better private equity partners. And through syndication and what we've done in our education business, we've really grown our network and to be one of the premier resources in all things self-storage. We teach people how to do the business. We mentor, we syndicate, we do joint ventures, and all things self-storage, and basically in-house. We are connected. I speak at the industry trade shows and I write for Forbes magazine, and I don't say that for any other reason other than one of the lessons we've learned along the way is just focus. And we picked one asset class, and we got just as good as we possibly could in that asset class, and that has paid off for us tenfold in the industry. So there's the either the long or short version, however you want to look at it, as to how we began and where we are and how we got to where we are now.
Man, well, I mean, that's impressive, right? And I love that. I mean, I've driven for years, looking at storage, facilities and whatnot, and never, that it just never clicked. And I had, and actually a friend of mine actually introduced me to the concept a couple of years back, and I was like, man, I mean, it makes perfect sense. I haven't tapped into it, I haven't broken into that area. But the model itself, I mean, it does make sense. So it's definitely, worth a look if you haven't, at least explored it, right? So you have, I mean, how do you go from multifamily? I mean, of course, you said you liquidate all those assets and whatnot, but how do you go to 13,000 units nationwide, for example? How does one come about, finding these type of properties out there, and make, turning it into a business?
So the actual transition, it's very similar in fashion in terms of commercial real estate and from an underwriting standpoint. For those that aren't in commercial real estate, just the quick lesson, if you will, is that the valuations and the way that we finance these and everything revolves around net operating income. So taking the profit and loss statement, the income and the expenses, driving down to the net operating income, and then putting a capitalization rate or a cap rate on it to determine your value. So from that standpoint, apartments, multifamily going to self-storage, very, very similar, but that's where it stops. It's the operation side that was much different than that. However, that is what allowed us to grow, is that with our multifamily properties, even though we had a management company, still we were growing right around here, central Indiana, where I live. And we still wanted to be able to see, touch, and feel, be able to visit our properties. And still, there's a lot of handholding that needed to be done, from the property management companies to meeting contractors in different projects. And if any issues or challenges arise, which they do when you're in the tenant and toilet business. Whereas with self-storage, that allowed me to take a look at, $500,000, $1 million buys a whole lot more units in self-storage than they do in apartments, just because of the construction cost, the sheer construction cost. But I could buy more. I could buy a larger facility, which means that I could afford a full-time property management company to manage them. And there really wasn't the headaches. I mean, there's no pipes that burst. There's not massive amounts of rehab that needs to be done on a storage facility, because there's not much to rehab. And so, there was less of a need or a worry or stress in owning 500 metal boxes on concrete slabs across the country versus being in my backyard. So, Rafael, they give me the freedom to then begin to look in other markets and look more to a deal, no matter where it is in the country, rather than having the rule that it has to be within a 2 or 3 mile, drive within my home state, or even, my office. So once you begin to expand and go nationwide, our marketing went nationwide, and really call it an unfair advantage, but one of the benefits and the reasons behind us growing an education platform and just a publishing platform of articles and blogs and podcasts is to introduce people to the industry. And then when they went out and learned what we were doing and how to go about the business, then they would bring opportunities for us to either wholesale, we could buy them, or to joint venture or do partnerships. And so most of that growth has been through partnerships on both the private equity side, on syndication, people that want to invest along with us on the financial side. And then the actual owner operators, our joint venture partners that were finding the deals and underwriting them or developing them, that brought us into them. So that is how we really leverage what we had built and our knowledge and experience to go out and do more deals with partners.
And you know, it's when you're sharing the wealth of knowledge, right? I get it.
Mhm.
It always finds a way of coming back
Yeah.
to you. And we do a lot of JV as well with people who we help out, you know, through coaching and whatnot. So you know, even in something like this, that I mean, it's really a niche, right? It's not the common
Hmm.
path that most people just stumble upon right away
Hmm.
as they want to get into real estate.
Right.
But it's also doable. So you've taken this operation. I mean, you've built it into this massive thing. How are you able to run an operation like that nationwide and still
Mhm.
keep tabs of everything? And you smile.
Well, that is the key, isn't it? We talk about in our circles of folks that are running and growing and scaling big businesses. I posed the question probably 10 years ago to one of my buddies. I said, you look at a Richard Branson and he's got all, huge companies, all of them, just incredible. And it's just like, man, I'm struggling with this little real estate company I have. How do people like that do it? We all know the answer. But when we look at it and we look at our schedule from day to day, I mean, it is about the people, and that's not
Right.
a cliche, and it's not an easy answer. It's about building systems in your business, taking a page from Michael Gerber's book. Systems run the business and we manage and tweak the system. I mean, we
Right.
created the E-Myth in our business and we did that first. But then you have to get the right people, and to quote Jim Collins, you get the right people in the right seat on the bus. And Rafael, as you and I have talked about, traction, I mean, is a
Yeah.
big piece. The entrepreneur operating system, lays out the framework for putting all that together. Hiring rock stars and hiring them on your core values, to begin with, and they have to match and they have to mesh, within your organization, and everybody has to be in concert and be able to work together. We use predictive index to hire people to make sure that they're a match. First of all, they get mine, and they have to be able to look at that and say, "Ooh, can I work with that guy? He's got
Yeah.
issues here,
Can
here,
I
and
deal with
here.
what's coming? Yeah.
Can I deal with what's coming in this environment?" And
Yeah.
I'm upfront about that, and we have to be. And so when we get theirs back and we say, well, here's the blind spots and here's some of the gaps, they're going to work in this department. Is that going to work with the head of that department?
Right.
And you know what? The quicker that we can find out that it isn't, then we're all better off. And sorry, you're not a fit for our organization. Best of luck to you. And others were just like, wow, this person's a rock star. Maybe we need to get better in a couple areas in order to bring this person on. And so I think all of that in concert is just truly making sure you 100% understand your core values and you only hire the right people based upon that. And then you have good solid systems in place, and to be able to train them. You don't just hire a rock star and then throw them in and just say, hey, we don't micromanage around here. As a matter of fact, we're not going to tell you how to do anything. You just figure it out because you got a strong resume. That doesn't work. You have to have the processes in place and train them. And then it's just communication. It's that rhythm. It's the level 10 meeting, as you know, Rafael, where we get down to the basics and we have the discussions each week that need to be had, which means, hey, what's our sticking point right here? And we're only going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about what we've done. We'll take 5 minutes to do that. But what's our sticking point? And are we still achieving our quarterly objective and our annual objective, and just staying focused on the big prize? So, business isn't dispelled down into those, two or three things, but man, it is about the people and the processes, and then getting the data and staying on top of it and working towards working with that data towards a common goal.
I love it, man. I'm all about systems and delegation, right? The
Hmm.
freedom is in the systems. I know how
Hmm.
cliche that sounds, but it really is. You
It
can't
is.
automate, delegate, and elevate from anything if you don't have a system in place. You're just going to scale chaos, right?
Yeah.
So what does, for example, I have a really good idea of what a good healthy wholesaling business
Hmm.
needs to look like, right?
Hmm.
Something that's sustainable, something that's running, something that's, if you're tapping in the average big market, what you should be
Hmm.
expecting, right? Give
Hmm.
us a rundown of what that looks like in the storage business space.
Sure. Yeah, one of the things that attracted me to the self-storage business is that it is a simple, predictable business model. Now, I don't want anybody to confuse that and thinking that this is an easy business, or I'm saying that this is an easy business, or overshadowing that, because no business is easy.
Right.
If it's easy, it means that you're not minding the store and you're probably not working as hard as you should on your business, because it's not. But with self-storage, we've got some data sets and we've got some metrics that we can pretty much hang our hat on, that we know what's going on in the economy, and where we're buying and where we're going to exit, we can hit that, with precision, because we know going into a market what the supply index is. If we know how many square feet of self-storage per person are already in that 3 and 5 mile radius, we know if it's leaning towards being an oversupplied market or an undersupplied market. Do we have the ability to raise rates and raise occupancy just because we're buying a facility where it's got a mom and pop owner who are asleep at the wheel and they've
Yeah.
never put up a website, or they don't answer the phone, or they don't have the technology, or there's a lot of money to be made they left on the table because their rents are 20% below the rest of the market because they just want to stay full. And that's why they've never raised rates, which is also, music to our ears.
Now it's a
Same thing
value
with
add opportunity, right? Yeah.
and it's all about value add.
Yeah.
When we're buying an existing facility or developing, I mean, developing is the ultimate value add. You take a piece of dirt and you put a bunch of buildings on it and you rent them out. That's the ultimate value add. But same thing, we go into a market and we know what the supply index is. We can look at the median income. We look at the rental rates of our competition. We look at all of the housing and what is coming online in terms of permits from subdivisions to multifamily and everything that's going to affect this facility. And we can pretty accurately predict the performance and the success of a project. And if not, then we walk away and we go down the road. And the reason why it's such a predictable business model and it's a little bit easier is because our market, our trade market, our competition is usually within a 3 mile radius of that facility. So it's pretty easy for us to be able to figure out the dynamics and the demographics of what's going on there. And if it doesn't work, the beauty of that is that we go, 4-5 miles down the road, we draw another ring, we see another piece of dirt for sale, or a building that we can convert, an old movie theater, or an industrial building we can convert to storage, and we can do that all over again. And so our market, or our markets are all across the country in 3 to 5 mile radiuses that we get to analyze. So I'm not sure if that answers your question,
Yeah.
but that's how we go about the business model and our approach.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, I guess the question behind it, and you did nail it. It's was how do you find, for example, so many units, right? Especially if they're
Hmm.
outside of your market. And I mean, in real estate, we have the concept of boots on the ground, and then we JV, we
Yep.
partner, and we do all kinds of stuff,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
But between the lines there, you're actually developing spaces as well. So you're converting
We are.
existing real estate
Hmm.
into the storage facility.
Hmm.
What type of cap rate are you looking for when you guys, look for something like that? Is that dependent on the area or?
Oh, there's a whole lot of things that go into that, Rafael. I mean, that is one of the most common questions that were asked. Tell
Yeah,
me what kind of a return, because a cap rate is just, for those that aren't familiar, it's just a rate of return.
right.
Capitalization rate means a rate of return, and we really don't look at cap rates. I mean, yes, we do on an exit when we list something to sell it because we know where it's at. But in terms of an acquisition, if we're value add, we're going to pay
Right. The
X amount
cap
of
rate's got to
dollars for
be
this.
off. Yeah.
It's going to be off, yeah, because
Good.
it could be a 0% cap rate, and we've bought 0% cap rate. It means it's losing money, but that's because it's 20% occupied because something happened in this facility or with the management, or both. They took their hands off the wheel, or it was in an estate and the kids took it over when mom and dad passed on, and they didn't do anything with it. To all the way up to something that's 50% occupied, and we're paying a 4% cap rate for that. And somebody says, well, why would you ever pay a 4% cap rate for a Class C facility? So because
Mm.
it's 50% occupied, and when I take it up to 85 or 90, if I were to bought it at that stabilized rate with rental rates in the market, I'd be buying it at a 13 or a 14% cap rate. So it's all relative, and that's somewhat of a misnomer. We're looking at where we can take a facility, and it doesn't really matter where the cap rate is when we're buying. Now, for somebody that is looking to buy a turnkey self-storage facility, that's a different story.
Hmm.
If you're stepping into something that's already 90% occupied and rents at the top of the market, and they're doing everything that they should be, they've got U-Haul in place, selling locks, boxes, and moving supplies, and renters insurance. And there's just little bumps in value, but it's a turnkey, and you're buying it in today's market, say at an 8 or a 9 cap, then snag it. That's a great yield play. That's a great cash flow play. And you buy that at 5% interest rates, and you're buying it at a 9 cap. That's a 4% yield. If you do everything right and mind the store, that's strong. So, anywhere in between, once again, I don't want to act like I'm talking in circles, and any question that you ask me, Rafael, is, it could be answered with it depends, because it does.
Yeah, it's
It
real
just,
estate. I mean, it's just
Mhm.
at the
Yep.
end of the day, the strategy changes, and there's some particulars, but nothing is definite when it comes to real estate until,
Correct.
yeah.
Hmm.
No, I like it, and I'm intrigued. I'm very intrigued. So I think I want to find out more about what you have in terms of education.
Hmm.
And you guys do education, and are you guys doing seminars? Are you guys doing just coaching programs, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we started this. I didn't really officially plan to get into the
Hmm.
education side of the business. I used to run my local RIA, which is also an access for me to be able to get network, and get in touch with as many people as possible in
Yeah.
Indianapolis to do more deals. And then I got voted in as president. And then when I got into the self-storage business, everybody wanted to know about storage, so we started holding workshops at our RIA. And then lo and behold, it just kind of took off from there. Some of the agents asked me to go speak at different places, and the industry, our business was just kind of born out of that. But it always has been about the deals, and so long as that helped me to get into and access to more opportunities, and to be able to do more deals,
Hmm.
that's what happened. So yes, we started then holding larger events and doing 3-day events, and then people did want to get into mentoring programs, and we designed ours a little bit differently, which is not just pay X amount of dollars and we'll teach you the business and go off on your own. It's like, nah, you're going to spend a little more, and we're going to work alongside of you and build your business with you. And we're going to partner on deals together. We'd rather go the extra mile and teach somebody absolutely and share everything that we know, so that they can go out into the marketplace and have the best chance of success, so that when they have too many deals or too big of a deal, they bring us in. And so that has been the model that has worked very well for us. And so it's really based around, and we have a home study system, because that was really born out of necessity, because there become several people, dozens of people in Indianapolis that want to take me to lunch and pick my brain, and I didn't have time, so we created a home study
Yeah,
system. And
yeah,
then
I can
now we
relate.
got
Yeah.
thousands of people across the country that instead of taking me out to lunch to pick my brain, they have our home study system, or they can come to our 3-day events where it's just my team, so you can see how we do it, so you can see how to partner with us or how to syndicate with us. So all along the way, it's just been designed to say, hey, here we are, here's how we do it, we'll show you how to do it, you can do it alongside of us, we'll do it alongside of you, but let's partner together. And that's always been the ultimate goal. So that's been our approach to the education side of the business.
Mhm. Yeah, creating win-wins, man. I mean, it just kind of
Hmm.
takes me back to the whole entrepreneur mission, right? I
Yeah.
think as
Hmm.
business owners, or entrepreneurs in general, we have the ability to create spaces, where
Hmm.
people come in and thrive. And if we empower not just our teams, but the people around us, it always finds a way of making it
Yeah.
back. I can't tell you how many
Hmm.
times I've helped somebody out, sat down
Hmm.
for lunch and we've broken down their business model or something like that, help them just, you know, because it was the right thing to do, right?
Yep. Hmm.
Fast forward months or whatever, without expecting it, something comes back. They bring back a
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah.
They will connect a relationship. It's just, it just keeps feeding itself when you operate that way. Um,
Hmm.
so you, back backing up to like 1993 when you got started on this. Uh,
Yeah.
did you is it, I mean, entrepreneurship, or what you're doing right now, was it part of the vision back there, or was it something
Mm-mm.
that just kind of got it evolved on its own and got put together?
Yeah, it started, to be honest with you, Rafael. I was working for a Fortune 500 company, a Fortune 100 company, actually, at the time. And I just wanted to be able to have a better way of being able to supplement my retirement and not
Mm.
putting all my money in the stock market. So Rich Dad, Poor Dad, as
Oh yeah.
just about everybody out there has read.
Isn't that
It
crazy?
talks about the reason. It is. It's but that's the catalyst. That was the book that I read that gave me the mind shift to
Yeah.
say, that at the same time, when I was working for this company, I was maxing out my IRA, and doing the company match in it. But I still didn't want to have all my eggs up in the Wall Street basket, the Wall Street casino.
Yeah.
And it's a good thing I didn't, because this Fortune 100 company in 1999 was one of those that was on the news for cooking the books during the big .com crash. And so I lost
Wow.
$350,000 of my retirement that was tied up in stock in that company. Well, all the
Wow.
while I was building up my portfolio of single family houses, and it was really at that point when, in that recession in 99 2000, I looked at, did a time audit and said, here's how much time I'm spending in real estate, or how much time I spent last year, and here's how much money I made. And I looked at how much money I made working for this company and how much time I spent, and my hourly rate was dramatically higher in real estate. And I was building something that was paying me passively, and building wealth where somebody could pay down that asset, like a retirement package with this other company. And at this point, it was just the math. It was just staring me right at the face. It's just like, all right, well, now if I double down and I spend 50 hours over here instead of a 40 and 10 to 20 in real estate, then here's how much I should make. And so that was the catalyst. And I always thought, having the entrepreneur bent and working for another company, I wasn't made to do that. I was in sales, so I had some freedom and some flexibility, but I still felt like a caged animal, and I knew that I wanted to go out and do something on my own at some point. I just didn't dream that it would be in real estate, and that I would be doing that full time and doing it as quickly as we did. So it just kind of happened organically. And once I sat down and did the math exercise, we were off to the races after that. I quit my job in 2 weeks.
Wow, you quit your job in 2 weeks after you got rolling? Is that?
Well, after we had about 18 houses at that point, my wife and I, and I put
Were
this,
they all
when I showed
you
her.
started with creative financing, right?
We did,
Yeah.
all creative financing, and just, showed what this would look like to my wife, and just said, here's how we make this happen. We've got to the place where we can borrow without the creative financing, but still some with using private equity. Here's how we're going to grow this thing, and we don't have to rely on our W-2s. So don't get worried about the banks not looking at us. And yeah, once we had the plan in place, and she agreed to it, which is, what all good husbands do, is get their wives buy-in when you're going to go make a big take a risk like that.
Yeah, pave
But
the
we made it
road.
happen together. But it happened. We made it happen together, and we were off to the races after that.
Man, I love it. I mean, your transition or journey in real estate has been, nothing close to the traditional approach. I mean, you started with
hmm
creative financing, which is an advanced strategy,
hmm
and then started building that up, right? Most people get into the fix and flip, or like in my world, a lot of people start wholesaling, and those are
hmm
like the first steps before you
Yeah,
really
it's the
dive.
gateway.
Yeah, the gateways before you dive neck deep into the other stuff.
hmm
But you did it the other way, and it's
Yeah.
panned out well. So I
hmm
love seeing that. Now, throughout the time that you've been growing the companies, now you have multiple businesses, right?
hmm
And you have a very mission focused background. I mean,
hmm
including you've built properties or built houses in Mexico and Dominican Republic,
hmm
that sort of thing, right? So tell me about that whole side of your entrepreneur journey.
Yeah. I think that was always there in the beginning. My wife and I, when we set out to make this business, we truly wanted it to be a lifestyle business, and what that meant for us was that we both had parents who worked. Both of we were latchkey kids growing up, and we decided that we did not want that for our kids. We wanted
Yeah.
to participate in raising them, and we wanted to have the ability to homeschool if we wanted, to be able to take our kids on vacation and not have the school ding their grades because we were gone to Washington, D.C. to learn about how the federal government works, because the school wasn't going to take our kids to Washington, D.C. to show
Yeah.
them how the government works, and how dare they, ding us on a grade or our kids for doing so. And so that's what that provided for us, is the ability to do that. But then also we wanted to be able to go out on the mission field, and we want to unplug and truly be off the grid. And when I say off the grid, I mean off the grid, with no cell phone service, no phones, no distractions, for our kids to be able to focus on serving others and be able to do that anytime
And
and
not run out
anywhere
of money,
that we
right?
wanted, and not run out of money, and not have worry about trading hours for dollars. And
Yeah.
so that only happens by creating your own business. And so that is what we built. And lo and behold, we went on a short-term mission trip, and we had always been mission focused and done a few different things. But then we went on a mission trip where a gentleman paid for us to go to build houses in the Dominican Republic with Youth with a Mission, with YWAM. And he paid for the whole thing except for our airfare. And so we went and took the family, and my eyes were open to what it looks like to go to a place where these people, living in a house that was built out of pallets, and they wake up, with their cheek on a dirt floor, and all the health issues and the lack of opportunity issues that comes with not having a home. Kids can't go to school in some of these countries if they don't have a
Yeah.
home to go home and study to. The government won't pay for their schooling. And so, we realized that this is something that we wanted to do, and began to put that in place. And now we replicated that, or we're doing the same thing. We're building 4 to 6 houses a year, partnering with YWAM, Youth with a Mission, and their Homes of Hope organization. And we write a check for the house, and for anybody who wants to go on this trip with us, we pay for them to go. They just got to pay for the airfare. We do most of this in San Diego. So they fly into the San Diego airport, and we pick them up in a bus. And again, we pay for the whole thing, the house, all the tools, everything to furnish it, and their trip and their experience, to open up the mission field to other folks that may want to do this in their own company, or maybe want to scratch that itch, and to walk away with whatever experience God or anybody has for them when they're on that mission field, and then go out and do likewise. And we've seen it blossom and grow. And for some folks, it was just a great experience that they can share with their kids or family members. And for others, yeah, they really got bit. Something or somebody touched them and said, yeah, we're going to go start this foundation. We're going to go start this mission. We're going to do the
Mm,
same thing that you're doing, Scott. Can we come alongside of you, or whatever that looks like? And so once again, like we all know in the real estate business, how to leverage, because we do it every day.
right.
That's what we've done on the mission side of our business, is just leveraging individuals to go out and make a dent in the world.
Man, I love it. Mission for contribution. It's you
Hmm.
never know what the ripple effects is gonna, or
Yeah.
what the ripple effects are gonna bring in, right? How you're gonna
Hmm.
help somebody and then plant the seed, and then that somebody else is gonna take it somewhere else, somewhere else, somewhere else, and it all
Hmm.
stems from that spirit of entrepreneurship, of actually going out there and
Yeah.
getting it,
Hmm.
and really committing. I mean, you've been committed to creating this lifestyle since
Hmm.
1993. I like the fact that you've actually engineered it throughout the
Hmm.
process. So, I mean, because you
Hmm.
mentioned earlier, yeah, I mean, I don't want to deal with, tenants, toilets, and trash. Okay, cool. How can I get rid of
Hmm.
that? And then boom, just, made a pivot. Um,
Hmm.
and if you do that enough times, I mean, you end up with a pretty good context of what life is.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I love
Hmm.
it, Scott, man.
Agreed. Agreed.
It's been a blast having you. I am
Hmm.
super intrigued. I want to find out more about self
Hmm.
storage. So I'm definitely going to be reaching back out to you. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, and
Hmm.
maybe find out more, just like I do,
Hmm.
where is the best place to find you?
Absolutely. Selfstorageinvesting.com is all things self-storage. It is the place. We are the number one company for educating and teaching people how to get into self-storage. There's a ton of free content and information there, from videos to white papers to articles that we've written over the years, different calculators and things. So go there to get your feet wet and understand if this is something that you want to get into. And if you want to invest passively in some projects in self-storage and come alongside and partner with us, then there's opportunities to do that on our website as well. So yeah, all
That's
things self-storage at self-storage.
selfstorageinvesting.com, right?
You got it. That's the place.
Selfstorageinvesting.com. Perfect. I'll be sure to put a link on the show notes
Hmm.
as well, so people have it. And Scott, there's one question that I love asking before we start signing
Hmm.
off, and that's if you were walking down the street and you ran into your 17-year-old self, what would you tell that kid?
Relax. It's all going to be okay. Dude, life's too short to be stressing about your future right now. Just relax, enjoy your buds, you prepare for the future. Don't do anything stupid. But also don't forget to that partnerships are a good thing. And I say that out of context because for so long, Rafael, in the beginning, it had to be me, and I wanted the glory, and my pride got in the way, and I heard about
Mm,
people in bad partnerships. And
chip on the shoulder.
it wasn't until I was in my 30s when a gray-haired old man with a lot of experience and a whole lot more money said, I couldn't imagine getting into real estate in the beginning without my partners. I wouldn't be anywhere near the place that I am right now. And so
Wow.
folks, don't hesitate to reach out. Or if I'm talking to my 17-year-old self, hey, take a look at the people around you and look at where they're at. You can learn lessons from them. They can help you. You can also help them. But don't hesitate to reach out and to form a partnership, because if you want to go fast, as the African proverb says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And that is proven so true in my life. I just wish I would have learned it when I was 17. So good question.
1,000%, 1,000% agree with that. I love it, man. It came quick too. The response to that came quick. Usually people take, I don't know, 5 seconds or something to think about what. I was like, relax. I love it. Scott, thank you so much, man, for spending time. And
Mhm.
I know you're a really busy guy, so I appreciate you stopping by and
Mhm.
then sharing some of that wealth of knowledge with us.
My pleasure,
Um,
Raphael.
yeah, thanks so much. Family, there you guys have it. Scott Meyers, make sure that you go to selfstorageinvesting.com, find out more about how you can get tapped into this strategy for wealth, right? At the end of the day, we're looking for the freedom to own our options, and this is another vehicle that can help us in that journey. So I'll catch you guys on the next one. Stay focused. You got this.